Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're here today with Parker Briden from Snowflake. Parker, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me here.
So tell us a little bit about Snowflake and your role.
Snowflake is a big data company. We essentially help large enterprises across the globe to organize the massive amounts of data that they have, make it useful, especially as AI is becoming such a big part of every conversation. We always say that data is upstream from AI if you want to apply it in a real world environment. And so we're very excited about helping companies to manage that.
And you're a public company. Snowflake is such a leader in AI and data, and we are seeing, all these policies and executive orders coming out. We've been partnering for a year now, partnering between Snowflake and Open Policy, and you are really focused on North American government affairs. So you have like this massive portfolio. Tell us a little bit about how policy plays a role in your day-to-day and kind of growing Snowflake.
Well, for any of our teams that are operating in a regulated market, it's essential. It's the water that their customers swim in every day, and so they have to be able to articulate it, articulate a point of view around how a certain policy evolution is going to affect the way that they deploy Snowflake, but all of their broader services. And so it's been a great accelerant for us as we've tried to help other teams understand what's happening in the world of policy on a day-to-day basis.
And you raise a great point. When we look at policy, this could be a force shaping requirements, creating go-to-market opportunities.
Yes.
And a lot of our focus and our collective work has been about enabling open policy platform to support you in your day-to-day, but also scaling the connectivity to the business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's one of my favorite things about the open policy platform. So many government affairs solutions out there seem to exist for their own sake or they're focused primarily on a compliance lens. And open policy has a really interesting approach, which is that it sort of first takes the question, which is what is the opportunity to the business as a result of this new notice in the Federal Register or executive order or convening. And I think that's a really unique approach, and I think it's also the most helpful for all of the various teams that are using it inside Snowflake right now.
Thank you so much. I think one of the things we wanted to do from the beginning is making sure that open policy goes beyond intelligence and really understands the business, understands the technologies, serves business units, go-to-market team, public sector teams. So you also, of course, are working with governments globally and with the U.S. government on a large scale. Where do you see policy play into that?
Well, policy is what they do, right? Anything that a government across the world does, says in some form is an important policy signal. And so we want to make sure that we're taking as much of that in, that we're organizing it, and then we're finding some actionable insights from it for our teams that are operating in regulated sectors across the globe, healthcare, energy, servicing militaries, as well as those who are doing real government services work. And so it's been really impactful for us to be able to have an accelerated view of those and a really tight way to gain the need to knows from any different policy evolution.
Yeah, especially if you're selling to the public sector, you definitely need to be aware of the requirements,
Yes.
right, that are driving public sector procurement. And looking at policies can really get ahead of that and allow a proactive view for the business. And so Snowflake is also an amazing company when it comes to engagement. Your ecosystem is so broad, and you've been taking a proactive approach to policy and really becoming a thought leader for government stakeholders worldwide. Can you speak a little bit about that engagement component and how open policy has enabled you in that regard?
Well, it's just made us much more confident going into any conversation because I've been around this space for a long time, but I don't know everything about the nuances of the Department of Labor and the Department of Energy and the Department of Agriculture and much less 50 different states' priorities and what's going on in their spaces every single day. And so the ability to log in and quickly gain insights about the latest and the most important that's happening in each of those domains is just invaluable. It makes us so much more ready to have really complex conversations.
Thank you so much for that. I think, from the beginning, we wanted to make sure that everything that relates to engagement is also a critical part of open policy and an enabler because, ultimately it's not just about consuming policy, it's about shaping the policy and kind of being in the conversation. And so you've been doing this work for a long time. Snowflake is such a phenomenal leader. A lot of our kind of innovative partners, companies that see Snowflake, some of them are startups, are thinking about, hey, engaging in DC and kind of what they should do, right, as a player here. Any advice that you can share from your vantage point?
I would say that policy evolution is not just a positive or negative thing. It presents opportunity, and it's all about how you react to it, even if it's something that might be scary on its face and might present a lot of costs to comply with. It enables you to go in and speak to important people and share a point of view, even if it's not the same one as theirs. They're often very grateful to hear it, as long as you do so in a respectful way. And your platform has just created so many opportunities for us to pick up the phone, call somebody and say, hey, I saw this. It's not getting a ton of publicity, but it's actually kind of important to us. Can we schedule a time to sit down and have a conversation about it? And so, find yourself also a good AI platform that is going to surface these policy evolutions so that you have an excuse to reach out to people and talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. And we
Do
are
you know any?
we at Open Policy are
Yes,
happy to help.
yes, yes.
Well, speaking about the platform, maybe a last question for you. We've been partnering now for a while, and one of the best parts of being able to do it is working with such amazing technology teams and business teams that you have at Snowflake, and kind of getting their feedback and productizing policy to personas beyond the government affairs, and really creating that connective tissue to the business. And maybe my last question to you is, how do you see that connectivity to the business and understanding the technology, the fact that we have multiple personas in the organizations using open policy as hopeful, as something that is kind of scaling growth?
Yeah, it's essential. Government affairs is not just something that exists in a vacuum. At the end of the day, it's in order to support the business objectives of the people that you work for, of the company that you work for. And so the ability to take what we do and apply it to somebody who is a salesperson, somebody who is a technical leader, helping to innovate our product for a particular market is just so important. It's so essential. And the fact that you've gone beyond just thinking about government affairs teams or legal teams and are really thinking about those business teams that are going to be creating revenue for any of these companies is a special sauce. It's important, and it's rare out there in this sort of ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Parker. It's been an amazing partnership. We are excited to continue it and to scale it. Thank you so much for taking time and joining us today, and thank you for the partnership.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for all that you do.